Yeah.
So I would like to welcome Jim Miller, who you were in the class of 85, correct?
Oh, you've made me a little older than I am, but that's okay. No, class of 89, actually.
Class
So,
of 89.
yes.
Okay.
Yes, I was at a Jefferson when Mike went to Jefferson, I went to Jefferson. So,
Oh, okay. So wait a minute. Okay, so just tell me your progression. Tell me your
so
progression
yes,
through.
no, yeah, the night I started, I was at Jefferson from, yes, graduated in 89. And yeah, that a few years prior is when it's interesting to see how different that school district is now. But a couple years prior is when the school district shifted ninth graders to from junior high and went to the middle school model and shifted ninth graders to high school, which is still 9 through 12 in Cedar Rapids. Um, and that's when they added, of course, added faculty positions and added, in the case of Jefferson, added another drama director that Bob Geider had been there for decades and was nearing the end of his time. But yeah, that's when Mike went there, and then obviously stayed a while, and then moved on to Cincinnati. So.
So what was the first play you worked with him on and what were you doing? What was your role?
I was super, like many of us, drama was my thing, theater was my thing, still kind of is, in different ways. But let's see, I should have been more prepared for this. I mean, the one that comes to mind was it's a show called, I actually did it in junior high, which was kind of funny. A show called Seven Keys to Baldpate that Mike directed.
Hmm.
I was fortunate to have some good leads and some nice parts. I am not a singer at all. I can blend in a crowd, but you do not want me doing a solo at
Hmm.
all. That's a bad thing. So yeah, I was not a musical guy, or being in the musicals at Jefferson. But otherwise, several shows. Cedar Rapids Schools, actually, it's such a small world. I'm on the board as past president. Cedar Rapids has something called Playtime Poppy. It's been around for 70, almost 75 years. So every winter we would do a children's theater show, and Mike did some of those, and Bob Geider did some of those. But super active theater program still is. Somebody named Joe Link has been at Jefferson, literally started as a student teacher and has been there for his entire career and does just really, really interesting work. So
That's great.
there we are, rambling, but there we are.
No, but
So
that's great. So what attracted you to doing this when you were obviously you were doing in junior high? Like you just loved being on stage. What was your attraction to doing this?
Some probably would say because I'm a loudmouth and a show off, and I don't know, maybe that's was true or is true. But in junior high, I went to Wilson Junior High, and there was a teacher there named Jan Webster, and she had been at Wilson for a long time, also English teacher, language arts. But I directed shows, and I just really liked her. As simple as that. She was my teacher, but also I tried out for shows there, and just kind of fell in love with it. Again, she'd been there a long time and was very well respected, and did some cool shows. So that was kind of the start of it, and then just went straight from there into Jefferson and other shows, and that's that.
What was the attitude towards fine arts and theater and so forth during your time at Jefferson? Because my again, I witnessed Jefferson from afar. It seemed like
Sure.
football was a big thing for them back at the time. Because
That's a really good question, Steve. I suppose it's always been I hate this phrase, but arts versus athletics, or however you want to put it, that the arts are never supported at the same level, it seems. Jefferson was, I just had lucky timing, maybe. Jefferson was at a high point then for the arts. The show choir and music programs, marching band, all of that were really good. Theater was really good. Speech was really good. And in all of those cases, certainly vocal, theater, marching band, you saw, I'll say, the legendary people that had been there 10 or 20, not 10, 20 or 30 years, and they had built this really strong program. Um, Bob Geider, I think, was hired. he was not the first director at Jefferson, but right a year or two after they opened, he was there and was there for 35 years. So certainly that makes a difference.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, I think it's interesting also to see the for anyone that's not in Cedar Rapids, the Cedar Rapids School District just after a year of very contentious meetings and discussions, are closing six elementary
Right,
schools and
right.
shifting to an intermediate model. So they will have K-4 schools, 5-6 schools, 7-8 schools, and three junior highs. They were even looking at possibly closing Kennedy High School, and converting that into a middle school.
Did not know that. Did not know
Yeah,
that.
makes your head shake. Like, but the reality is the school district has lost thousands of students over the past decade. Um, I won't get too political here, but a lot of it also has to do, of course, with school vouchers and
Right.
non-public school options and the amount of kids, amount of students that are going. So the Cedar Rapids School District is really shrinking and consolidating. Um, I think the number I heard is they have about 13,000 students, and not too long ago we're at the 18,000 level. So
Wow.
that's a that's a big gap, and of course every student carries money with it. So
Right.
but yes, so the programs, I'm rambling a bit there, but yeah, the fine arts program, I feel like even in the midst of the public schools doing this great shrink, great consolidation, they're still trying really hard, I think. How can we make some arts programs still relevant and still strong? All three high schools do really good theater, and really good music. So I hope that continues. But uh, yeah, the I think the number was they were cutting $12 million in one year. So that's serious. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a that is
so
a that's a more than a little bit of a budget hole, definitely.
yes, it is. Yeah,
Um, Shifting gears back to when you were in high school, what was and to Mike in particular, what was the like? Just give me an early memory of meeting him and how you two came to know each other.
happy to. I remember, I can't tell you that I remember the first time I met him, but for some reason he was new, of course, coming to Jefferson. Um, and for some reason we all knew that he was in the military, in the reserves. And I remember I was just talking to a friend about it. Pardon my language, we thought, oh, this guy's in the military. He's a hard ass.
Hmm.
Well, we couldn't have been more wrong. Yes, he had expectations very clearly. I think he was a terrific I had him had him as a teacher and as a director. Um, Very clear expectations, very high expectations. Nice guy. Even then, nice guy.
Right,
But don't come to a rehearsal and screw around. That's not why we're here.
right.
Uh, and I think he was I think he was a breath of fresh air for Jefferson, for a different style, a different way of rehearsing, way of directing. And I did some really, when I was there and following, just some really powerful, interesting shows, that I would say maybe high schools don't typically do. So,
Hmm. So, like, because a lot of because from Benton community, two of my classmates have gone on to be theater directors and so forth. And so I've talked to both of them about this. Um, that one of the, and but they've also both had to move schools. And
okay.
they've both talked about an issue that they've had of creating a culture that may be different than the culture that was there before. So what you're describing is that he was creating a different culture than what the theater program may have been before he got there. And
I,
like
I,
explain that,
I
expand
Yeah,
on that.
I think so, Steve. And again, was in shows that Bob Geider directed, and again, Bob had been there, and I am on a board with his daughter right now. But again, incredibly well respected. But yeah, very much did a fall. I think at one point Jefferson was doing 5 shows a year, do a straight show in the fall, play Tam Poppy in the winter, a Shakespeare, a classic, musical theater. So again, it was an intense. That's a pretty intense school theater calendar. Um, and I remember feeling like Mr. Pites, or Mike Pites as we call him now. did some shows that I don't think Bob Geiger would have done or wanted to do, one that
What do you mean by
really
that? Like what was ambitious about it, or what do you mean by that?
different subject matter. The show that I still can see it in my mind was called Piece of My Heart, a Piece of My Heart, and was about women in Vietnam. And it was
He mentioned that.
just,
He mentioned that. He talked about
it
that.
was, oh my gosh, Steve, it just, the talent was incredible. There's a woman, a young, now she's, how old is Catherine? I don't know, probably 40 something, that was in it. And again, I remember just thinking, this is a powerful, powerful show. And then when you think that everyone up on stage are 17 years old or 18 years old, it just was so, so well done. I think it went to the state thespian conference. I don't remember. I don't think it went to national, but it was just it's just not a show that you thought a public high school might be doing.
Hmm.
Um, and just really, really well done. I still, like I said, I still remember how good it was. So,
Cool.
and then I'm sure when Mike hears this, he'll know where I'm headed with this. But we had this secret plan after I graduated from high school, college, etc. Came back to Cedar Rapids, and I owned a costume design and costume rental and scenic rental business, retail store and rental, and we did shows all over the Midwest and all over the country, primarily schools. But we had uh, a running joke, and I think he was more serious than I was. But we had a running joke and that's when he was running Thespian's educational theater, that this was going to be his retirement gig. He was going to move back to Cedar Rapids, and he said, "I'm going to be your salesperson, and I'll go drive across the state and talk to high school directors and rent them shows and backdrops and costumes and all this." And I said, okay, that sounds good. I mean, the running joke was, oh, wait, do I have to pay you to do this? Or you're doing this for your volunteer retirement gig? And then as it happened, we had a unsolicited offer to buy the business, and the price was right and the time was right, and we sold it. Um, and then the joke was, what's Mike Pite's going to do in retirement now? The guy can't find a job. So, but yeah, it was fun. It was a great run, but it was a lot of fun. So,
Well, okay. Um, okay. So what is there anything specifically either expand on that, like what was your experience in high school that led you to go into something that then is so directly theater related? Like
um,
what made you decide this is what you wanted to do?
sure. Well, of course, I thought I was going to be on Broadway someday, don't we all? Um,
Not me.
uh,
Not,
yeah,
not,
not
not
you.
even
Okay.
one night of my life have I thought I'm going to be on Broadway. Not once. But anyhow, keep going.
Well, and I truly thought I either want to be a performer. I'm not that good. Again, no musical theater ability. Or then I thought, am I going to be another Mike Pites? Am I going to be a high school theater director forever? Neither of those happened. And truly, it was just kind of, different ways that it happened to do this business. That happened, and I remember talking when I was even in high school with Mike Pites, the talk like, what are you going to be when you grow up? What are you going to do after high school? And of course,
Hmm.
I'm not sure I figured it out, and I am a few years later, um, but the whole point of how do I stay connected with theater? But clearly, I'm not a performer. Clearly, I directed shows, but I'm not a director. I'm not a teacher. I pondered that through the years. Should I have been a theater teacher? But I didn't. So, um, the other thing I was going to say is I remember so clearly, I believe it was my junior year. I was going to look at a yearbook last night and I forgot to do that. That we hosted Mike helped me get elected to the Iowa Thespian Board, and we hosted the state conference at Jefferson. I believe it was my junior year. And honestly, Steve, I can still remember. I mean, it was a big deal for us to host it, and I don't know, I don't
Hmm.
remember how many, but hundreds and hundreds of people came to it. And I just remember working with him on that, like, the whole state board, but to say, you guys are the leaders, you're the leadership team, and you got to produce this thing, and people are coming from all over the state, and we got to figure it out. But it was I've done a lot of event planning and a lot of festivals and things since. So maybe that was the start of it. I'm not sure.
Well,
So
yeah. I mean, organizing an event like that while you're still in high school is that's a huge learning curve. Uh,
Yeah, and it certainly
so
was. Yeah,
so that's excellent. That's and so that's okay. That's really what I was trying to go with where I want to go with these interviews. You being the first person I'm interviewed of
right,
this. There are other people that keep saying they're going to do it. Hopefully it happens.
right.
But
Well, and I
but my
think
because my goal on this is that it's not only to talk about Mike and his experience, but then like what were the life lessons that people learned under his leadership, under his, working with him. So,
right. Yeah, I absolutely. I have really wonderful memories of him. He and I just had lunch a couple weeks ago. We haven't we go through the years and connect and then kind of reconnect. Yeah, learning about expectations, learning about getting the job done. Um, Also, what a nice guy. What a just like a nice guy, and as corny as that sounds. Um, and again, I just have really warm memories of being in shows under him, working with him, the Iowa Thespian Board, and then again through the business. And then like I said, we catch up I was in West Des Moines for about 15 years and we crossed paths a couple of times. And then we go 3 or 4 years and then now we've connected more since we're kind of in the same area in Iowa. He's about an hour away in Delhi, um, and it's just been fun to stay connected through the years on whatever level we stay connected. But yeah, it's just been really cool.
that's great. Anything I don't want these to go terribly long, so is there anything else you want
Yep.
to tie specifically to um
Not
anything
not
more
not
you want to make sure
specifically,
you have a
but
chance to say?
one thing I would say is I think I'll get of course, education is under fire right now, and public
Hmm.
schools and everything they do wrong, and et cetera. But not to be heavy-handed here, but times like these are when I think I really mean this. Thank goodness for teachers like Mike Pites
Right.
and others to say that they cared about you as a person, as a 16-year-old or an 18-year-old. They cared about you, they mentored you, they taught you, they guided you, and to say you make a difference. I think teachers are so beat up right now of everything that's wrong with our world. Think about the amazing things they've done. They have saved many of us and sent us on our path to
Yeah.
whatever our life becomes. So
I Look, I definitely considered Mike to be a mentor, and went on to
same.
college and I had mentors, whatever. But yeah, I saw, and again, I'm also don't care to make this at all political, but I did happen to see, even though I'm 7,000 miles away, I follow Iowa closely, and I did happen to see a Zach Lane commercial that just
Oh,
absolutely unbelievably insulting to public schools that I was like, I was offended, and I'm like, I'm not even affiliated with a public school anymore,
yep.
and I'm offended by this ad. It's
Yeah,
like,
it is I agree, Steve. In case anyone doesn't know, I'm a bleeding heart liberal. Yeah, that ad is just disgusting. It is just disgusting to say here's someone that's self-funding his campaign, and that ad is so offensive, so incredibly offensive to public schools and public teachers and the whole system. But it just is.
and the idea that somehow or another this is going to be popular enough to get me the Republican nomination. That is the
Sadly, Iowa is a. I'm very hopeful for the election this fall that we can take some things back, but
yep.
it's Iowa is not the place I grew up in, and it doesn't feel like a good place all the time.
Yeah, trust me, I think about that a lot because I
Yep.
coming from Benton County, where
Right.
we were our county is exactly what America has become in the sense that we voted for Obama for we were Obama both times he ran, and now 65-70% Trump voters, and it's like,
Yeah.
where did we go? Where did that
Yep.
happen? So
Yeah.
anyhow,
It's
for the
scary.
recording of this, anything else before we end the recording?
Nope. We're good.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
yep.
I do appreciate it.
Yep.
And so we'll stop the recording.